So we're here today to talk about the topics of scale and scalability, specifically for asset performance management platforms in the context of renewable energy for asset owners and service providers. Okay, so Ablash, you say customers are pretty savvy. I would say they're constantly looking for ways to optimize and to adapt their business processes and IT strategies. Can you elaborate a little bit on how we help customers do that?
Yeah, I mean, this is really exciting for me personally because what I'm seeing is that, as this industry is getting more competitive, as you have more and more people who are putting assets on the ground, as they're moving towards merchant pricing, or as they were getting to a place where, you're not really looking at just fixed pricing all the time and so on. Competitiveness is pushing a lot of these companies to look for even more ways to optimize every kilowatt hour and every dollar on top of it. And that means that they're getting better at iterating their business processes, their contractual structures, how they're doing oversight over their service providers, and their IT strategies, right? So if you were to look at the CIO, the average CIO today versus 7 years ago, you might find a very different IT strategy to how he's approaching the challenges for the entire business. And what this really translates to, when you think about this, it's really about configurability, right? So if you're looking at a software solution for your business processes, you want to know that it's configurable and rapidly can change and adapt to your business processes. Maybe you're changing something, you're tweaking something, some parameters that you're changing, right? So in the wind industry, for example, maybe you're changing how you do power curves or how you measure your expected production or how you calculate your availability, for instance. And you want to know that the solution can quickly adapt to these changes and these iterations. And you also want to know that you're not really tying yourself to a particular IT strategy. There's no real lock-in happening, just because I think that's protecting your interests. And that configurability, I think, really you have two options when you think about configurability. So if you were to think about two extremes, one extreme is where you decide, hey, I'm going to be an IT shop and I'm going to go and write code. I'm going to hard code my customizations into a solution. And there's many downsides to do an approach like that. But the real holy grail here is the opposite. And it's harder to do, but if done right, pays a lot of dividends. And that is to actually try to make it about configuration. So can you achieve this kind of customization through clicks, not code, right? And that, what that really requires is leveraging subject matter expertise. And in our case, we have been talking a lot, we have more than 200 gigawatts of assets that are being monitored in our platform, and leveraging all of those customer contacts to basically build a framework on all the most important calculations in the renewables industry. That allows us to make this configurable now, where if I can build a framework and I can agree with you on a certain framework for calculations, now I can parameterize it. And that means you only need to configure these parameters. Again, I'll draw the parallel to basically what the infrastructure as a service industry is doing and what AWS and Azure and so on are doing for us through their cloud services, where a lot of the dirty work, a lot of the noise is handled by them. And you as a user just get to configure what you want very quickly. You don't need to go through support teams or service teams or IT teams or anything like that. It saves a lot of maintenance and burden, right? Last thing I'll say is, I think it's really important in today's day and age for most owners and operators to be savvy enough to know that they're avoiding lock-in to an IT strategy. So what that means is, hey, do you have loosely coupled solutions? Can you, for instance, decide to just use one part of a solution stack and the remaining part you can deploy on-premise for XYZ compliance reason? I think being able to have this, leveraging the best of cloud without being locked into a vendor for whatever reason, I think is a very important decision that most companies need to make, because, and here's the main thing to understand, we're getting to the tipping point now where for a lot of these companies, a decision made now is a decision that lasts for a few years because you're not going to be able to revisit it. And in the meantime, you're growing your portfolio heavily. So it's a career-making decision that you really have to think about. Again, no pressure, but that's just where we're at as an industry.
Yeah. I think one of the aspects of our product vision that resonates the most with me, having done this for nearly 2 decades now, is that we have an open posture to our technologies, and we're really trying to empower our customers and not lock them in. But Russ, again, could you help translate that to a couple of technical approaches we take to the system design or what have you to be open?
Yeah, sure. Well, let's go back to this microservices-based element of our architecture. So, we've packaged a lot of the work we've done in the last decade with our products and into new microservices-based facilities that are really designed with the idea that things are going to change, right? Things will change, but they're well compartmentalized. So we're able to tolerate a pace of change in our software that gives us a nice resilience. So that's one. The microservices really help with that adaptation piece of things. Extensibility is a huge part of it. Event-driven allows us to expose things that might be of interest to systems that are outside of our solution scope, and we can feed and integrate well with those systems that way. We're very mindful that while we want to provide as broad a set of solutions as we can, that there might be other places where our customers need to use different technologies or want to choose different things, and we want to be open and play in that world. And so, that's it's very central with our APIs, our abilities to export data, the configurability and extensibility of our system. We try to carry that to our delivery models as well. We're a cloud service-based solution, but we do have pieces of it that you deploy on-premise when you want to or need to. And, as well, of course, our ability to integrate with, systems that are outside of our cloud environments. So it's, all that sort of resiliency is part of what, we think is super important to deal with this industry that's growing and changing so quickly.
Well, that's great. I think we've covered a ton of ground here, and hopefully, folks that are listening to this resonate with some of the pain points that we brought up, as well as some of our approaches to the solution. We encourage you to reach out. We'd love to hear your feedback and answer any questions you have. So thanks for taking the time to be with us today.